I have done things that haunt me at night so that you can sleep in peace. I have been away from my family for a long time so that yours can be safe. I have sacrificed a lot in my life so that you may be free. I have done these things because I took an oath to my country, an oath that I will live by until the day that I die, because I am a United States veteran. Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. That poem, written by an anonymous veteran, obviously, as a veteran, means a lot to me. My hope this evening in speaking with you is that you leave here with the realization that the greatest gift that you have been given as an American citizen, your freedom, is not being maintained. Now, I will explain and define for you what freedom is. I will show you its cost. I will explain to you how we need to maintain that freedom, and in the end, issue a challenge. So what is freedom? Well, each dictionary differs by a word or two in its definition, but overall, freedom is the power and the right to say and think and do whatever you want within the boundaries of our laws without fear of retribution from your government. Now, our freedom came at a cost, and that carries with it a responsibility to do what is right, whether we want to or not. What was that cost? Well, for me to explain that cost, I need to introduce you to three people this evening. Two of them sitting here, Diane and Ernest. Diane is a veteran of the Army National Guard and one of the veteran students here. Her husband, Ernest, retired from the Army after 36 years as a sergeant major. The third person is their son, Kevin. Kevin followed in his parents' footsteps, joining the Army, becoming a combat medic and a highly decorated one. In the 15 months that Kevin spent in Iraq, he carried out over 285 combat missions. On one of these missions, the one that he was awarded a Bronze Star for, his convoy, in fact, his vehicle, was hit by an IED, or an improvised explosive device, a bomb. Paying no mind to his own injuries, Kevin immediately began treating his fellow soldiers. He stabilized them while calling in for the medevac, made sure that everybody got out and didn't lose a single man. Now, going forward, Kevin was honorably discharged, and at the time of his discharge was starting to deal with some emotional and psychological issues, as a lot of our veterans do. Over the next 2 years, Kevin was treated for these, to the point where he was eventually admitted to Walter Reed Army Hospital. By this point, he had become so combative, he was pulling out his own IVs. See, like I said, Kevin didn't pay attention to his injuries because he was injured in that explosion. Kevin had suffered a traumatic brain injury, one that led to an aneurysm, that by the time they realized that aneurysm was there, it was too late. He was 24 years old. Now, according to the Veterans Administration, last year in 2017, less than 1% of the US population were serving in our military. Now, very few of us are called to serve. Fewer yet, like Kevin, were called to give that last full measure. This does not, however, take away the responsibility that we all have to maintain that freedom. How do we do that? Well, maintaining freedom, according to one of our founders, Dr. Benjamin Rush, in an essay that he wrote in 1786, he said, "Freedom can exist only in a society of knowledge. Without learning, men are incapable of knowing their rights. And where learning is confined to a few people, liberty can be neither equal nor universal." So in other words, in order for us to maintain our freedom, we have to continually educate ourselves on it. How do we do that in a society that is constantly changing? Well, most of you here do not have access to the database that as students we have at Bakersfield College. That would cost you thousands of dollars a month. So most of us are going to go to the internet. when researching information on the internet, there's a few guidelines that you want to use to help you get good, credible information to help you make good decisions. First off, one of the best sources for credible information is actually .gov. Now, I'm not talking about whitehouse.gov or your congressman or senator.gov. What I'm talking about are organizations such as the FBI, the CDC, and the NIH. These organizations, the FBI is made up of law enforcement professionals, the Centers for Disease Control by scientists, biologists, microbiologists, et cetera, experts in their field, and the NIH, or National Institute of Health, is made up of medical and health professionals who, again, are experts. The research that they do is designed solely for the purpose of informing and finding truth. Now, another place that two places actually you can go that require a little more work on your part would be .edu. These are usually institutions of higher learning, such as Bakersfield College, .edu, or a .org. These are usually nonprofit organizations such as MAD. Now, the nonprofit organizations do have an agenda, which is not inherently a bad thing, but when looking at either one of these two sources, you have to ask yourself who's doing the research, why they're doing it, what their intent is, and who's paying for it. Lastly, the one place you do not want to look is .com. Why? Anybody can post there. Now, I'd like to give you an example of what good research looks like. So, the debate on firearms is one that's very personal to me, as my wife and my mother both work at institutions of learning, a high school and an elementary. Two of my children attend an elementary school, so this is quite a personal issue right now for me. I decided to do some research and found multiple sources, two of which, the CDC and the FBI, both had really interesting statistics. See, in 2013, then President Obama commissioned the CDC to do a study on the effects of firearms on society. 6 months and $10 million later, they came up with several different conclusions, two of which were quite interesting to me. The first, they found that the confiscation of firearms would have zero positive effect on violent crime. The second was that the number of people that defend themselves with firearms every year range between 500,000 and 3 million. If there's that many people defending themselves, how many people are negatively impacted? For those numbers, I went to the FBI. So the FBI puts out crime sheets every year, and in the year 2015, the FBI put out that 35,486 people were victims or killed by firearms. Now, of that, 12,979 were victims of a homicide, or about 1/3. 22,018 were suicides, 2/3. The remaining 489 were accidents. Now, if you look at the number of homicides and compare it to the low end of the self-defense shootings, you get 1 homicide for every 38 self-defense shootings, or situations, So, now I'm not advocating either side of this issue right now. That's a speech for a whole nother night. I'm simply showing you how and what good research looks like. Now, what does bad research look like? So, in 1998, British gastroenterologist Dr. Wakefield put out 2 studies in which he stated that the MMR vaccine, or the measles, mumps, rubella, was directly linked to bowel disease and autism in children. Dr. Wakefield used 12 children for both studies and no control groups. His research was immediately denounced by autism experts as dangerous, and 5 different studies disproved what he said. Now, over the course of the next 10 or 12 years, they tried to redo his research. 7 times could not redo the research he did. In 2009, Dr. Wakefield's medical license was stripped from him when he was found out that he knowingly falsified his data. But the damage had been done. There were measles epidemics. Parents were afraid to vaccinate their children because of these studies. Now, good research can lead us to make good decisions. Bad research can lead to dangerous situations and even death. Now, I know time is precious. As a husband, father of 4, as you heard, coming up with the time to do research is not easy. I could easily say I don't have time for anything that's not related to my schoolwork. No one would fault me. But it's that important. You see, we have to remember the price that was paid. We have a responsibility to honor that sacrifice. We have to have a willingness to teach our children the importance of well-informed opinions and well-researched arguments. Now, we have to be willing to talk to people of opposing views. We have to have an open mind and a compassionate heart because we are people. Above all, we have to remember to treat each other with respect, kindness, and love. Why do I do it? There's 4 of my reasons. Remember, your children will never do what you say and always do what you do. That means that what we do now is quite literally our future. Thank you.